Video games. I've played them. Not a lot, but I've played them. It's that time of the year again. Welcome back to the top 10 games I've played in 2021, or the Scrags Game Awards 2021 show. I guess you could call it that too. This is a series where I talk about 10 games that I played and completed in that year, and since I'm just now catching up to my backlog, it's time to finally talk about my list for 2021. Which now that makes me finally, and thankfully, caught up with this series of videos. Damn it. If you haven't watched the previous videos before, here's a quick recap on the conditions for this list. 1. I can only talk about games that I've completed in 2021. 2. I can only pick a game that I've never tried before. Repeat playthroughs don't count, but remakes and variants are okay. And 3. I can only put one game per series. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Unlike last year, the conditions are pretty much untouched. I actually filled all of the requirements this year. So let's talk about them. I sure did complete this one. Rune Factory 1, the one that started it all. After playing Rune Factory 3 and really enjoying its gameplay, I was very curious in trying out what the rest of the franchise had to offer. And thus, the Rune Factory Marathon was born. Also because Rune Factory 5 was releasing, but that's another thing. Rune Factory 1 has definitely aged a lot in comparison to 3 and 4, but there was still a lot of fun things about this installment that I wanted to highlight here. This game probably balanced the farming and RPG combat the best in the entire series, while making both of them work hand in hand with each other. The game encouraged you to actually use the farm plots and dungeons by making rune points, or RP, your main energy source. Limited and capped at 100 for the entire game. Every dungeon in the game resets on exit as well, so you'll need to strategize your route properly to have enough RP and health to make it to the boss. However, this game also has its fair share of things that were a bit annoying. Because RP is so sensitive, any action you make in the game is important to get as much as you can out of the day. There's also not much that you can do outside of dungeon raiding, since the characters don't really have any events or really do anything. The minigames are also limited to what you can do within your RP limit, but it's not too bad. The game definitely emphasized more on the rune factory aspect of the game by being an actual rune factory with your crops. While I generally had a good time with it and admittedly found it fun at times for my first playthrough, I can't really see myself going back to this game. Except the times that I did come back to this game for the randomizer. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl was one of my most anticipated games of the year. A melee-like platform fighter with avatar characters? And the GOAT is a playable character? Those two things alone had me sold on the idea. And then the game came out, and I had fun. Made a video, made a playlist, and I forgot to write a description. Yeah, this game didn't really have that much staying power for me. It was fun when it came out, but the game didn't have enough content to really keep me coming back. Though a lot of the weird things about this game were said to be regarding Ludosity's tight budget, no room for delay, and heavy limitations from higher-ups that the funny mobile game crossover didn't have, so I'll avoid talking in too much detail about these. It's a shame that this game didn't have that much single-player content, like a Break the Targets clone, but I did enjoy some of the things they did have. The basketball one, for example, was a lot of fun to mess around with. As for the gameplay itself, it's definitely very fast and explosive. Personally, I found it hard to follow sometimes, but I think I kinda got used to it eventually. The game did start out as a bit of a touch of death simulator, but the devs have been changing parts of the game as it went to improve the experience, which is really cool to see. Overall, the game had some good ideas, but the development issues seem to have held back the potential of this game, which is extremely unfortunate. But as of now, the game is still fun to boot up every now and then, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Ludosity has planned for the game going in the future. Especially if those visions include buffing Top. 2022 update. Let's go! Garfield. When I said I played exactly 10 games, I lied. It was 9 games at a demo. I thought I'd still give my thoughts on the demo since the experience overall was pretty positive. So, some of my friends have been playing a lot of Monster Hunter, and I heard a lot of really good things about the game. So I've been looking for a good entry point to see what it's all about. My choices were between Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, Stories 2, because of my impulse purchase, and Rise. Since Rise was the newest entry in the series, and it had a demo, I thought I might as well give that one a shot. I was told the bosses weren't bloated up like an abyssal map in Hero, so the actual game wasn't like that, so I won't bring that part of the demo up besides a passing regard. But the battle engine overall is a lot slower than I was expecting, considering the entire game is centered around the monster hunting part of all the quests you can choose. While the gameplay itself wasn't something that really hit home to me, I think what made the experience really fun was the multiplayer. I played through the demo with a couple of said friends that I mentioned earlier, and just had a lot of fun exploring the world. I've also been told there isn't much in terms of story or characters, which is a shame, but I definitely see the appeal of the game with all the different monsters and patterns, while still enjoying what the demo had to offer, and the multiplayer is also very cool. I'll go on for you, Pilk. Damn it, he put Helltaker on the list again. Helltaker is back, baby! And with a free update that adds some more puzzles and a new story to go alongside it. There's not much to say about this one, it's just a short extension of the already short Helltaker campaign. But some of the puzzles they added include the limited move puzzles from the original, as well as a time attack puzzle where you can move freely, but have to keep in mind the other obstacles and their proper timings to complete the puzzle. I found this mix to be pretty challenging and fun. The character roster also didn't have that much to be said either. They only bring back like 1 or 2 characters and introduce 1 new character, which personally didn't really leave much of a lasting impression on me. Overall though, cool puzzles, but the lack of characters was a bit unfortunate. 7 out of 10. I guess we're doing rankings now. Here's another game I ended up playing a lot this year, Muse Dash. What was the other one? We won't talk about that one. Muse Dash is a rhythm game with some fun visuals, where you play as a character and have to hit stuff to the beat, but now you have to account for 2 levels of height. The controls felt very responsive and the song selection is pretty good. And there was also a Toho collab, which I'm still working on figuring out how to get because I'm not sure if I can just buy the Toho stuff or if it's only with the full Game Pass. 2023 edit here, I still haven't figured it out and they added Marissa, so I should probably figure that out soon. I like how they implemented a 2-button control scheme and how they handled the difficulty in the game, where they added enough variation to keep some difficulty for the super input heavy tracks, and then some simple, more accessible stuff if you still wanted to try out the songs. It's a fun rhythm game with a good range of accessibility, followed by a great selection of initial music tracks and a fun rhythm engine. Now, excuse me, as I still need to figure out how that Toho expansion works. I'm not much of a fighting game player and only accidentally got into them after realizing BlazBlue Calamity Trigger was a fighting game moments after the Impulse purchase. But ever since, I feel like I've gotten a bit more used to how things work here and the differences between them and Smash. So Under Night, In-Birth, EXE, Late, CL-R, or Unicler was a really fun title that one of my friends gifted to me one day. I like the character roster in this game and really like the way inputs and combos work. From what I understand, the combo string system allows for 1 move per string, so you can only hit that move once until your combo ends. That helped make managing combos easier, as I just needed to remember what moves I've already used before in the combo whenever I was doing something freeform. It incentivized me to learn the combos, as this mechanic kind of makes smashing less practical. It made me feel like I was doing things more and made the experience feel smooth. But take this with a grain of salt from the funny Smash player. I could have probably analyzed this completely wrong. I enjoyed playing the characters I recognized from Cross Tag, but I ended up playing Phonon a lot, since their zoning tools made for cool combos from afar due to their range, and one of her moves felt a lot like ZSS Nair. Where did everyone go? This is probably one of the most fun fighting games I've played, so I hope I have more excuses to play this one more often in the future. My first Switch Mario Party experience, as I skipped out on Super Mario Party. After hearing the mixed reception about it, I decided to pass on that. But I did hear good things about Mario Party Superstars and thought I'd give it a shot. I played this game with a ton of different people, and I can say with absolute certainty that this was a well-needed return to form of the original Mario Party formula. Not to mention this game has online, and it actually works pretty well. For the most part. The maps are all great, and Spaceland is there too. They're also fun with a good range of gimmicks to keep the variety fresh with each round, but it's a shame that there were only 5 maps and with no DLC in sight. The minigame selection for this game wasn't limited to the first 3 Mario Party games like the board games were, which was awesome. I really like this roster of minigames, although they still haven't brought back Picture This from Mario Party 7, but I'll give them a pass. Very excited to play this more often with more people, and this truly is a refreshing comeback for the Mario Party series, that I hope will continue to be a precedent for future titles to come. I'm interested to see if this game will get some sort of update in the future, allowing for more minigames or boards, perhaps outside of the first 3 games. Even then, there's a couple of fun boards from the original 3 that I would be excited to see in the new engine if they were to keep that trend going. But even now, it's still a fun multiplayer game that I'm glad I ended up picking up. Finally, I managed to finish a Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game without action replay or having to beat Super Mystery Dungeon in order to do it! Rescue Team DX is another return to form on this list that I enjoyed very much, as I enjoyed the Explorer games a lot. I really liked the bond between the player character and the partner, and I felt the gameplay perfectly nailed the balance between satisfyingly challenging and fun, unlike Super Mystery Dungeon. The dialogue still retains its charm, and the story campaign was really fun to go through. My one small nitpick is that it felt a bit short, but the campaign experience itself was great on its own regardless. I enjoyed the modern additions like the multiple staffs and the danger Pokemon, which they added an increased chance for shinies, but I'm sad that the game still didn't bring back the neutral attack. So I guess I have 2 small nitpicks. I haven't played the original, but the game definitely met my expectations and so much more after I was sold on the game through its demo. It doesn't have any curve issues like Super Mystery Dungeon does, yet still isn't afraid to push you into a corner and force you to think cautiously when proceeding. Especially after playing through this blind, not knowing how many floors I had left, and not knowing what kind of bosses my rescue team would have to overcome next, it made for a refreshing, challenging, and charming experience. Deltarune Chapter 2 was a treat the whole way through. For one, I think I like the settings much more than the ones in the first chapter. Sure, Chapter 1 had some really good areas with bangers like the Fields of Hopes and Dreams, but I think Chapter 2's areas were a lot more memorable to me. From Cyberworld to the city, with everything else in between, and afterwards. The music had to grow on me admittedly, but I ended up really liking this chapter's soundtrack after listening to it a few more times. The party distribution in this game is something I really like too. Your party actually switches up quite a few times, and I like being able to interact with the world with the different party structures in this chapter. And now, to avoid mentioning anything besides that for spoilers, I will end this point here. All the characters in this chapter are so much fun, and the interactions with all the characters are just as charming, if not more so than the ones in Chapter 1 in Undertale. It even includes some funny Smash references. At the end of it all, Deltarune Chapter 2 was a fun 5-hour ride, and with all of the little secrets and stuff Toby Fox hid in this one, it has led to some pretty interesting speculation and theories outside of the game, which is always nice to look at after finishing the chapter. Very much looking forward to seeing what more wacky, silly adventures Toby Fox has in store for the cast in the remaining 5 chapters of Deltarune. The WarioWare slot for this list came down to 2 things. Either it was going to be WarioWare Touched, or the newly released WarioWare Get It Together. Admittedly, it was going to be WarioWare Touch for the longest time, but the more I really thought about it, the more this one grew on me. WarioWare Get It Together is the newest installment in the WarioWare series, and is also the reason Intelligent Systems' Fire Emblem streak broke. At first I thought the new gimmick of playing as the characters was a bit off-putting and clunky, but I slowly started enjoying the game the more I played. With how each minigame has a different method to completing it depending on the character you're playing, though some characters are much easier than others. I found this to be surprisingly creative and enjoyed how the story mode handled it, slowly introducing you to more characters and more gimmicks as the story progressed. Just like all the other WarioWare games, each character is assigned a certain theme, and by going to each character's level in the story mode, you can try and aim for a higher score alone or with a friend. Outside of that, there are other things like the Monkey Elevator Challenge levels that have their own unique gimmicks to them, but I won't go into too much detail about those. Instead, let's talk about the incredible emphasis on multiplayer, which is honestly what this series was missing. WarioWare didn't really need a multiplayer setting to stand out, of course, but I think it helps enhance an already solid formula. Not only that, this game is a banger lineup of multiplayer minigames, including but not limited to a fighting game with all the WarioWare characters, a hot potato minigame where you have to clear the minigame before the balloon pops, volleyball, a board marking game that has its own unique set of minigames, and so much more. The extras for this game are so much fun, especially if you have 3 friends to play with. Furthermore, this game has a fun little shop system where you can buy gifts for all the other characters, so you can level them up to unlock little art pieces, different colors, or even costumes like solid gold or a zombie palette. Get It Together has a ton of replayability value and is a blast to pull out with a group of friends and play a couple rounds with how much there is to do, as well as check in every now and then on your own to see the gallery, or try and beat some of the high scores yourself. And that is why this is my number 1 pick for 2021. And it actually released this year too. And that's another top 10 list, another year down, and another fun selection of video games. What lies in store for me in 2022? What games will I try next? Hopefully we'll find out soon, and I won't procrastinate on this next video until the next year again. Thank you all for watching the video as always. These are always lots of fun to do, and I hope to find more opportunities to do more of these in the future, so be sure to give that interaction, the like, the comment, the subscribes. Especially if you enjoyed this video. Those help let me know that you guys enjoy this stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this 2021 Game Awards, and let's see if I can actually finish more than 10 games next year.